How's everybody doing? And we're back again with another story from the vault of Would You Dare. And then we touch on all kinds of things: monsters, cryptids, aliens, paranormal, ghosts, witches, you name it. We talk about it here. Again, just a spot just to allow you to come in and question and think about and ask questions about the what if, okay? And the what ifs. So remember to like, share, and subscribe. Again, for some reason, I need about 55 people in order to live stream so we can do Q&A. So I greatly appreciate if you guys would, if I can get 5 more subs on my YouTube channel so we can make that happen. But today, we're going to discuss America's first serial killer, H.H. Holmes. He's also known as the infamous Devil in the White City. And he remains mired in myth after 125 years of his execution. And again, let me show you a clip of what he looks like. That's what the cat looks like. So if I don't get a thumbnail, you guys know what he looks like. There he is, America's first serial killer. And again, as I stated before, monsters come in all shapes, forms, fashions, skin walkers, whatever you want to call it, demonic possession of humans, you name it, they come in all shapes and forms. But let's get into it because it's pretty lengthy, okay? So 4 days before H.H. Holmes' execution on May 7th, 1896, the Chicago Chronicle published a lengthy diatribe condemning the multi-murderer, bigamist, seducer, resurrectionist, forger, thief, and general swindler as a man without parallel in the annals of crime. Among his many misdeeds, the newspaper reported were suffocating victims in a vault, boiling a man in oil, and poisoning wealthy women in order to seize their fortunes. Holmes claimed to have killed at least 27 people, most of whom he lured into a purpose-built murder castle, replete with secret passageways, trapdoors, and soundproof torture rooms. According to the Crime Museum, an intricate system of chutes and elevators enabled Holmes to transport his victim's body to the Chicago building's basements, which was purportedly equipped with a dissecting table, stretching rack, and crematory. In the killer's own words, "I was born with the devil in me. I could not help the fact that I was a murderer, no more than a poet can help the inspiration to sing." Well, look at that crazy. I told you, monsters come in all shapes, forms, and fashions. All right? Let us continue. More than half a century after his death, Holmes was widely considered the United States' first known serial killer, and continues to loom in the large imagination. Eric Lawson's nonfiction bestseller, The Devil in the White City, introduced him to many Americans in 2003, and a planned adaptation of the book, spearheaded by Leonardo DiCaprio and Martin Scorsese, is poised to heighten Holmes in notoriety even further. But true to the story of Holmes' crimes, while horrifying, may not be quite as sordid as popular narratives suggest, wrote Becky Little for thehistory.com last year. Mired in myth and misconception, the killer's life has evolved into an American tall tale, argues tour guide Arthur Adam Seltzer in H.H. Holmes, The True History of the White City Devil. And like all best tall tales, it sprang from a kernel of truth. Look, now you're trying to clean it up. The dude was a monster. I've done more research on him than this, but let us continue. These are the facts, says Seltzer. The sensationalized reports suggest that Holmes killed upward of 200 people. Seltzer could only confirm 9 actual victims. Far from being strangers drawn into a house of horrors, the deceased were actually individuals Holmes befriended or romanced before murdering them as part of his money-making schemes. And while historically and contemporary accounts alike tend to characterize the so-called murder castle as a hotel, its first and second floors actually house shops and long-term rentals, respectively. Yeah, that's true, but he also had these other rooms as well. It's been well documented, so I don't know what this person is talking about. When he added the 3rd floor into his building in 1892, he told people it was going to be a hotel space, but it was never finished or furnished or open to the public. Cells are added. The whole idea was just a vehicle to swindle suppliers and investors and insurers. As Frank Burgos, a Philly voice, noted in 2017, Holmes was not just a serial killer, but a serial liar, eager to encrust his story with legend and lore. While awaiting execution, Holmes penned an autobiography from prison filled with falsehoods, including declarations of innocence and exaggerations. Newspapers operating at the height of yellow journalism latched onto these claims, embellishing Holmes' stories and setting the stage for a decade of obfuscation. Born Herman Webster Mudgett in 1861, the future Henry Howard Holmes, a name chosen in honor of Detective Sherlock Holmes, and according to Janet Mawson of the New York Times, grew up in a wealthy New England family. Verifiable information on his childhood is sparse, but records suggest that he married his first wife, Clara Loving, at age 17, enrolled in medical school soon thereafter. Holmes' proclivity for criminal activity became readily apparent during his college years. He robbed graves and morgues, stealing cadavers to sell to other medical schools, or using complicated life insurance scams. After graduating from the University of Michigan in 1884, he worked various odd jobs before abandoning his wife and young son to start anew in Chicago. And then they got like a newspaper article, the world page, the case of a modern Bluebeard. Now operating under the name H.H. Holmes, the con artist wed a second woman, Marta Belknap, and purchased a pharmacy in the city's Englandwood district. Across the street, he constructed the three-story building that would later factor so prominently in tales of atrocities. I apologize, atrocities. He concluded in time for the May 1893 opening of the World's Columbian Exposition, a supposed celebration of human ingenuity with distinct colonialist undertones. The fair drew more than 27 million visitors over its 6 months run. To furnish his enormous castle, Holmes bought items on credit and hid them whenever creditors came calling. On one occasion, workers from a local furniture company arrived to repossess his property, only to find the building empty. How did he do that? That's pretty quick. He must have had help moving that stuff if that's what happened. The castle had swallowed the furniture as later it would swallow human beings, wrote John Bartlow Martin for Harper's Magazine in 1943. A janitor bribed by the company eventually revealed that Holmes had removed all of his furnishings into a single room and walled up its door to avoid detection. Debonair and charismatic, Holmes nevertheless elicited lingering unease among many he encountered. Still, his charm was substantial, enabling him to pull off financial schemes and for a time get away with murder, almost without exception. His victims appear to have had two things in common: beauty and money, according to Harper's. They lost both. Holmes even wed for a third time, marrying Georgiana Yoke in 1894 without attracting undue suspicion. As an employee, C.E. Davis later recalled, Holmes used to tell me he had a lawyer paid to keep him out of trouble, but it always seemed to me that it was the courteous, audacious rascality of the fellow that pulled him through. He was the only man in the United States that could do what he did. Rascality. All right. Holmes' probable first victims were Julia Corner, the wife of a man who worked in his drugstore, and her daughter, Pearl, who were last seen alive just before Christmas 1891. Around that time, according to Lawson's Devil in the White City, Holmes paid a local man to remove the skin from the corpse of an unusually tall woman. Julia stood nearly 6 feet tall and articulated her skeleton for sale to a medical school. No visible clues to the deceased's identity remain. Yeah. Larson recounts Julia's final moments in vivid detail, but as historian P.T. Reardon pointed out for the Chicago Tribune in 2007, the book notes and sources section admit that this novelistic account is simply a plausible version of the story woven out of threads of known detail. Other moments in The Devil in the White City, like a visit by Holmes and two of his later victims' sisters, Minnie and Anna Williams, to Chicago's meatpacking district, are simply speculative. Watching the slaughter, writes Larson, Holmes was unmoved. Minnie and Anna were horrified, but also strangely thrilled by the efficiency of the carnage. Wow. The book endnotes, however, acknowledges that no record of such a trip exists. Instead, the author says it seems likely that Holmes would have brought Minnie and Nanny, now it's Nannies with an N-A-N-N-I-E, Nanny, there. These examples are illustrative of the difficulties of cataloging Holmes' life and crimes. Writing for Time Out in 2015, Selzer noted that much of the lore associated with the killer stems from the 19th century tabloids, 20th century pulp novels, and Holmes' memoir, none of which are wholly reliable sources. That being said, the author pointed out in a 2012 blog post, Holmes was certainly both a criminal mastermind and a murderous monster. But he added, anyone who wants to study the case should be prepared to learn that much of the story as it is commonly told is a work of fiction. Holmes' crime spree came to an end in November 1894 when he was arrested in Boston on suspicion of fraud. Authorities initially thought he was simply a prolific and gifted swindler. Per Stephanie Benzkofer, Benzkofer, of the Chicago Tribune, but they soon uncovered evidence linking Holmes to the murder of a longtime business associate, Benjamin Pitzel, 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 in Philadelphia. Chillingly, investigators realized that Holmes had also targeted three of Pitzel's children, keeping them just out of reach of their mother in what was essentially a game of cat and mouse. On a number of occasions, Holmes actually stashed the two in separate lodgings located just a few streets away from each other. It was a game for Holmes, writes Larson. He possessed them all and reveled in his possessions. Then they got seems to me this is an image of him going to the gallows. Let me show you that as well real quick. Let me show you that. So I guess they're taking him to the gallows. Not sure which one of these gentlemen is supposed to be he. I guess it's the one with the rope around his neck. That was a stupid question. All right. So, get that back up there. Let us continue. In July 1895, Philadelphia Police Detective Frank Geyer found the bodies of two of the girls buried beneath the cellar in Toronto. Given the absence of visible injuries, the coroner theorized that Holmes had locked the sisters in an unusually large trunk and filled it with gas from a lamp vial. Authorities later unearthed the charred remains of the third Pitzel sibling at an Indianapolis cottage once rented by Holmes. A Philadelphia grand jury found Holmes guilty of Benjamin's murder on September 12, 1895, just under 8 months later. He was executed in front of a crowd at the city's Moya Menzing prison, Moyamensing, Moya Menzing prison, I believe that's how you pronounce it. At the killer's request, he was reported worried about grave robbers. He was buried 10 feet below ground in a cement-filled pine coffin. Talk about cuckoo crazy. The larger-than-life sense of mystery surrounding Holmes persisted long after his execution. Despite strong evidence to the contrary, rumors of his survival circulated until 2017 when, at the request of his descendants, archaeologists exhumed the remains buried in his grave to confirm that their identity through dental records as New York Works reported at the time. It is my belief that probably all the stories about all these visitors to the World's Fair who were murdered in this quote unquote castle were just complete sensationalistic fabrication by the Yellow Pages. Harold Schechter, author of The True Story of H.H. Holmes, told History.com in 2020. By the time I reached the end of my book, I kind of realized even a lot of stuff that I had written was probably exaggerated. Holmes, for his part, described himself in his memoir as but a very ordinary man, even below the average in physical strength and mental ability. He added to a plan and executed with the stupendous amount of wrongdoing that has been attributed to me would have been wholly beyond my power. And that's the crazy of Holmes, right? Again, monsters come in all shapes, forms, and fashions and sizes, okay? They're not necessarily, as you can see, they're not necessarily always of the supernatural kind, but he did say he had a devil in him. And I've done research. In fact, in my new book, The Foes of God, he is one of the people that, he has a special place in hell. And it is pretty amazing and fantastic what I've done with, well, I'll let you guys see when you read it when the book comes out, okay? So, as you can see, again, crazy monsters are just all over the place. And there's just really no way ever to determine what you will be able to, what you can see. And you see a lot of people nowadays coming up missing in certain areas and in small pockets. You never know what's doing it. And I've even been told that pretty much in every apartment complex you have, and this is just what I've heard, okay? So I'm just take it with a grain of salt. That if you live in an apartment complex or a neighborhood, right, you have one of three types of people. Well, you have the serial killer or the sex offender in your neighborhood. So I'm gonna say two. I forgot what the third one was, but they definitely say there are two. You either have a serial killer or a sex offender. And if you really want to know, just go ahead and Google your area and see how many sex offenders are on the registration. Again, you guys, all I can say is make sure that you're being careful and make sure that you're protecting yourself at all times. This stuff can be quite unnerving, but it is what it is. So, again, we do this here because we're just trying to, pick our brains and have a good time and just basically see what can be talked about and what can't be talked about, what should be talked about and what shouldn't be talked about, okay? So you guys just hold tight and again, like, share, and subscribe. Would you dare want to be caught in a situation like this with this guy? Again, go down swinging and don't be gullible, right? As they say, don't buy any wooden nickels. Again, you guys be safe out there. We need 55 people. We got 50, and I thought it was 50 is what they said, but apparently 50 isn't enough, so you need 55 people in order to live stream for Q&A. Again, you guys support the work. And in closing, make sure you check your house, the dark closets, the dark recesses of your home. Make sure if you work late at night, right? Make sure if you work late at night, turn this way. Make sure if you work late at night, all right? Make sure that you check under your car. And if you work late into the mornings when there's very little light outside, make sure you check under your car as well, again, because you never know what's waiting in the dark to make you a story. And this has been L.A.Kendrick with another episode of Would You Dare? H.H. Holmes, America's first serial killer. You guys fill in the rest.